Hello, channel members. So, in today's video, something that I think will be very useful to you when it comes to manifesting, when it comes to the law of attraction, this ebb and flow, the science of cycles, and how you can work these to your advantage. And I do it all the time. You may have heard it said that all of life is cyclical, and that is true. And I'm going to give you some analogous talking points for you to kind of visualize that, and then some practical advice that you can use in your daily life or yearly life or decadely life, depending on what span of time you want to talk about, right? So let's talk about cycles first, and then I'll tell you kind of what I do when working with cycles, the natural cycles of time. And I mean, yeah, there's astrological signs, there's the changing of the seasons, there's those things too, but there's other place markers that I've seen play out in my life. And when I notice certain place markers, that's when I'm like, I think I know what's going to happen next. So we'll talk about that. But first, let's talk about cycles themselves. And why it's kind of like that first. So it's really simple. It's so simple, you're not even going to believe it. First, metaphysics. I'm going to go ahead and link down for you below again the Scientific American article about information realism, which Scientific American, they begrudgingly admit that, yeah, this is where science is going, whether we like it or not. And I've addressed that in a past video. If you're new to the members only content, there's actually a members only menu. So where it says home, videos, channels, about, community, there's also members. You can click there and you can see all of the members only content that you're paying for. Go watch all of them, guys. Go watch all of this members only content. You can watch it all there. I also made a members only playlist with all of the videos on there. So, you know, if you're new here, go get caught up, guys. You're paying for this. I'm kind of building something here with each video. So you might want to go back and watch the older ones anyway. But anyway, so in this article, they explain that the reason information realism works is because not of a physical, mechanical process that we could point to. Like when you have in chemistry two molecules or two atoms that bond together through electron, I believe it is called the valence of the electrons. So there's like a limit to the number of electrons that each orbital can maintain, and whether one has a higher or lower number of electrons determines how the bond is going to work, and it's chemistry. You might remember from high school. Well, that's an example of a mechanical process that we can look at to explain something. Information realism is saying that pure concept is what makes it work. Just stop there and think about that for a second. If you can write something down mathematically on a piece of paper, that's why it shows up in physical reality. It manifests in physical reality, but it's pure concept. It's pure information. You could write it down on a piece of paper, and that's why it works. It's not really that it has a shape. Like when you think of a machine, like the pistons in an engine moving, or the chemistry of covalence. I think they call it like a covalence bond. You'll have to excuse me if I'm getting the terminology wrong. I know I'm close. It's been 20 years, 30 years since high school chemistry. But anyway, you know what I mean. It's not a mechanical, like there's working, moving parts that work together that we can look at. It's just purely an idea that you can write on paper, and that's why it manifests in physical reality. That sounds very strange. Well, that's basically metaphysics in a nutshell, you guys. Now, there are streams of energy that can move about, but how they move about and why they move about. And there are all kinds of offshoot spiritual disciplines like sacred geometry, I want to say numerology, not really numerology, but it's where sacred geometry and numerology intersect. The music of the spheres is another one of these things. Like, how do we know that a chakra has a shape? Well, it does, but how that ball of energy ended up there, it started as concept. And how these larger energy systems play out in your life, well, that's easy to understand. It's easy to understand how a cycle works. All you have to do is think of like a planet orbiting a sun. And let's say you're here, or you're here even, or you're here, right? This is the sun, this is you here, or here maybe, wherever you are, but there's this planet orbiting. And every time that planet passes close by to you, you're here, and that planet is here. You're right here. The planet is here as it's passing by you in its orbit. Now, what happens when that planet moves up here? Well, it's at its furthest point away from you, right? So, different things happen at different stages in this cycle. The planet's here at its furthest point from you, and then when it's down here, you're down here closer to it. Different things happen in both of those at both of those times in the cycle as the planet is orbiting. Well, the same is true of energy that comes in and out of your life. Everything is cyclical, and what I'm telling you is there doesn't even necessarily have to be a physical thing that is cycling or energy that is physically like moving in a circle. It could just be a bunch of numbers written on a page. It's like information realism. Interesting, if not esoteric. So cycles can be astrological. It can be actual physical things moving around. Also, it can just be energy coming and going. There's an ebb and flow. It's a cycle, but it has the appearance of circular motion. And it isn't an accident that astrology actually literally works that way with the circular motion of planets. Again, these things manifest in the physical world, but they look a certain way on paper first. And it's because we wrote them on paper. But writing it on paper is a way of expressing the metaphysical processes that are taking place on the higher dimensional planes. It's just concept. It's ideas, but it's ideas in motion. Well, they manifest physically into actual physical motion. And all of these different things can be playing into this, guys. Now, that's an explanation of cycles, how they work, why they work, and what even science is uncovering about this stuff. But what do you do now? Well, as promised, let's talk about what do you do? Well, what you do is work with them instead of against them, and it's really simple advice, guys. Patience. This is the #1 Achilles heel with all of my manifesting students, with me, or with any of you, any person. Because what does the ego want? It wants everything right now. It's like a bratty little kid. I want it right now. I want it, I want it, I want it, right? Well, sometimes those things happen. You can manifest a quick $5,000 or something. You could manifest a date with a person, right? You can do that. But the way things play out in your life, like the situations in your life that turn out to be a permanent fixture, right? What I call the big goals, those play out over a longer period of time, and it's pretty easy to understand. The bigger the goal, the longer it takes for these things to show up in your life. Like, what if you're trying to manifest $10 million? I'm going to start a business and I'm going to make $10 million. Well, that's going to take a while. It could take you a few years to set that up. And if you're using these cycles and flowing with them instead of against them, and creating energy internally, creating an internal experience, reprogramming your personality, changing what it is you are being, and working with cycles instead of against them, after a while, people, resources, and opportunities, they start to show up in your 3D reality. And before you know it, you're getting customers, you're building a business. And then 5 years, 10 years later, you got $10 million. How about that? Well, that's a big goal. Might take a while. Can you manifest a winning lottery ticket? Maybe. Odds still play into that. You still have to take into account the odds. Is there magic? Yes. Are there odds? Yes. Well, which is it? It's both. All truths are but half-truths. So you got to be realistic. But that doesn't mean don't try to win the lottery. But to start a business, that's more of a sure way to do it. Maybe do both. I don't know, play the lottery and work on a business. But my point here is patience, allowing things to unfold in the due course of time. That's really hard for people. People want everything in an instant. And again, sometimes that happens. It really does, guys. But for many of the things that we want in our lives, they can take a little longer. I came across a message maybe about 4 months ago. I was getting a little bit stressed out, not too bad, but I had kind of a lot going on at the time. And I saw this message roll across my screen on social media one day, and I said, I needed to see that today. That message was for me today. And I just let go of all the fucking stress, just like that. Here's what the message said. It said, just remember, where you are today is where you only dreamed about being 5 years ago. And I saw that and I said, that's true. This is exactly where I dreamed about being 5 years ago. And 5 years ago, I was creating with intention. I was working energetically on creating what I'm doing. And it's kind of indisputable, isn't it, that it worked? And when I look at my story over the last 5 years, I see people, resources, and opportunities rolling in the due course of time. And I saw how that cycle played out, and I've got some very exciting news for you. I see that cycle playing out again. I see the same place markers. Very similar events, moods, and opportunities, all happening in kind of the same order and with a lot of fanfare. Many synchronistic events. Lots of these events unfold synchronistically and kind of in the same order that they happened 5 years ago. That's telling me everything that I need to know, you guys. I know that my life story, my business, New World All-Star, is increasing, exploding, right? I want to take things to the next level. I know that's what's happening. I know that in 4 years, 5 years from now, I'm going to turn around and New World All-Star is going to be 10 times bigger than it is. And I've been doing this energetic work for the last maybe 24 months. And it's starting to show up, guys. People, resources, and opportunities are finding me. And I see that I'm being pointed in this new direction where I'm going to take my business, where I'm going to take my online presence. And that's just my story. You might be a plumber or a hairstylist or whatever it is. But that's my point, is it'll be perfect for you. And I'm seeing the same types of events, patterns, strange synchronicities happening again in my current life situation in the same order. Guys, it's a cycle. I see it. And I'm not resisting anything. Anything that doesn't seem to be going right, I just go, it's fine. I don't know why that's happening, but it's just a speed bump, or it's maybe something that I need to experience, right? I don't resist energetically. All of these things are happening for me, not to me. It doesn't matter if something looks like it's going wrong. It isn't. That's the key, guys. So I hope that made sense. We'll talk some more about this next week. Thank you very much for watching. I'll see you next time. Have a good week.